Hello my friends, this is Joshua with Transplant Trex. Wanted to make a quick video this morning about one of the key components that you'll see in my videos, in my social media. I have it on t-shirts. It's a large component of the things I talk about. And the two words that I'm specifically speaking about are suffer upward. It's a tagline, it's a hashtag. It encapsulates a philosophy that I've adopted because of my transplant journey. I had a heart transplant on March 28th of 2024. That experience has affected me greatly in my life. And one experience that I had very early on in my transplant journey is I remember specifically laying on a hospital bed, staring at the hospital at the ceiling, and one of the doctors, technicians that was in the operating room during a catheter exploration of my heart, I remember them telling me, like, your heart is failing, your heart is not working right, which, I mean, by all accounts, if your heart is not functioning and you are not, and you are not pumping the blood that you need, if your body's not getting the oxygenated blood that it needs, you're dying. You're dying. And it hit home for me so quick that I didn't have a choice but to go through whatever was coming next. I had heard the word transplant sort of bandied about during my very short hospital stay at that point, and I found it terrifying to go and get a heart transplant. I realized right away how little I knew about getting an organ transplant of any kind. But it hit me just as quickly that if I ever wanted to see the other side of this, I was going to have to go through it. And oddly, I guess I surprised myself even in that moment, because it was just a switch that flipped in my mind. And I just accepted it. I just accepted that I didn't want to go through it. I was going to have to go through it. I probably wasn't going to enjoy it. There wasn't going to be a lot of fun parts. Now, knowing what I know now and having gone through the majority of that process, yeah, I know that there are definitely bright spots that have emerged in my life, people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet, that now I consider not only to be some of the greatest people in the entire world, but friends. These people have literally nursed me back to health, brought me back to life. And the encapsulation of the idea of that acceptance of that hardship, acceptance of the difficulty, even the unknown difficulty. Like in that moment, I didn't have any idea what I was going to have to go through, but I knew that it was probably not going to be easy. And that's where the idea of suffer upward came from. It is encapsulated by the idea of pick up your cross and bear it. Making this video is an example of me suffering upward. I would rather get out and run marathons and never turn the camera lens on myself than make videos with me as the central focus. It's one of the most difficult things about what I'm doing that I've had to go through so far, because it makes me uncomfortable. I'm a behind the scenes guy. I worked in I worked in the film industry for 15 years, and I never liked being in front of the camera. Never. I was always very much a behind the scenes sort of guy. And this is an example of accepting something that's got to happen in order to achieve the goals that have been set forth for me. The mission that I have, the calling that I have, and just part of that is getting on camera, putting myself on camera, putting that video up online, and opening myself up to the potential for support and criticism and probably everything in between. And that's just part and parcel for what you've got to go through if you want to reach more people with a mission or a cause or a goal. And to those who aren't familiar, my mission, my goal is to run a marathon a day in 2025 to raise money and awareness and support for transplant warriors of all kinds. I'm talking about the people that have gotten transplants, that are waiting for transplants. I'm talking about the people in their families, their friends, their support network and structure, the people that care about them. And even more specifically than that, the caretakers in the hospital, their doctors, their caregivers, the transplant coordinators, the support staff, the people that come in and clean your ICU room, that you bond with, that you become friends with, just by virtue of the fact that they literally stop by and see you every day. So it's that idea. It's you know, that's the mission. The goal is to raise money, to raise awareness, and to educate people more about the transplant journey, so that, you know, more people can be aware of what others have to go through in order to take that trek, in order to take that journey. And, you know, maybe when you go to check that organ donor box, you'll feel even more prepared to become an organ donor, because maybe you will have learned something. And I encourage you to send me messages, and I encourage you to ask questions, because, like I said, I knew nothing of getting a transplant. I had been an organ donor for years. I checked that box and I thought, oh, I'm a good person now. You know, well, maybe not completely, but, you know, I mean, it's you do that thinking that with the ultimate goal of helping someone else that's in need. But ultimately, you don't really go into a lot of depth or examination of what happens when you know, you would potentially be donating an organ to someone. And in that case, hell, it never even crossed my mind that I might need an organ donor myself one day. None of this hit home until I was laying on the hospital bed, looking up at the ceiling in the operating room, the cath lab, what have you. But the idea, coming back to what I was talking about originally, the idea of suffering upward is to accept that suffering and determine that it will become of benefit to you. Once you accept that you're going to suffer, they can't hurt you anymore. I know you'll experience physical pain, you'll experience emotional pain, you'll experience mental pain, but it will ultimately go toward a larger goal of you taking that journey and coming out better for it on the other side. Suffering upward, to me, gives a directional focus to the hardships that you'll go through. Suffering downward, to me, that reeks of self-destruction. Suffering laterally, just, you know, I mean, to me, that sounds like purgatory. That you're just going to let it go on forever. You know, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Just like suffering downward. You can choose to self-destruct all you want. There's nothing I can do to help you not do that. I can give you advice, but you're still the one that's got to carry it out. And that was the other portion of going through the transplant journey. There's lots of people that are you know, in my life and around me that have supported me every step of the way. But at the end of the day, it's me. I've got to lay in that hospital bed. I've got to have my chest cracked open. You know, I have to deal internally with the idea that I have someone else's heart beating inside my chest, and that person had to die for me to be here. For me to be making this video, my donor had to give their life, and all of the days that they had left. So that's also a component of suffering upward. Every time I think I'm going to have a bad day, every time I think about quitting, every time I'm thinking about taking a day off or having a lazy day or having a cheat day or whatever, my donor pops into my brain. I think about them as a collaborator at this point. I think about them as a teammate. They are with me always. And if I need to be reminded of that, all I have to do is stop for a moment and feel my heartbeat. Feel their heartbeat in me. I mean, praise Jesus, the doctors and the hospitals and the staff and our technology and our science has evolved and become so advanced that they're doing 4,000 heart transplants a year in the U.S. now. They've done 90 some at the hospital where I received my transplant in just this year. And for them, that's a huge scaling of the amount of work and the amount of people that they are helping. Suffering Upward is for all of those people. It's for my donor, it's for my donor's family, it's for myself, it's for my family, it's for all of the doctors, all of the nurses, all the medical staff that helped me and continue to help me along this journey. Suffering Upward to me means adopting the suffering I will know that I have to go through and doing it with dignity, doing it in a way that honors all of those people, that says to them, that speaks to them that I will not give up. I will confront what I need to confront, and I will continue to move forward. Upward. I will continue to move upward. I will not only trudge on in a straight line for the rest of my life, I will do something greater. I will do something better. I will become stronger than I was before. I will become dedicated to something in a way that I legitimately can give my whole heart to, which is someone else's heart. I can give mine and someone else's heart completely over to the idea of inspiring, uplifting, motivating other transplant warriors. And that's sort of where the idea of Suffer Upward came from. It was a combination of things. It's a combination of acceptance of suffering. It's a combination of dedication to moving upward and beyond that suffering. It's an acknowledgement. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be pain. And this is what I tell patients that I go and visit these days. This is what I say to them. There's going to be suffering. You're going to physically hurt. You're going to mentally hurt. You're going to emotionally have days harder than you could possibly imagine. You will get through it. You will get to the other side of it. The suffering that you are experiencing now is not your future. And if you're a transplant patient or someone that supports them or a caregiver right now, here, I hope you hear me and I hope you understand me, because I'm definitely speaking to you. I'm sorry that you're going through this. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But I'll tell you this. It has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. It has been and turned into one of the greatest blessings of my life. A friend of mine recently asked me if I had known that I would eventually need a heart transplant, would I have tapped out? No, that's not an option. Would I have done things differently? Yeah, maybe. But I can't go back and change anything that I did when I was in my 20s or my 30s. So that's kind of a moot point. But I told this friend of mine that if I had opted out of a heart transplant, I think I would have missed out on a heart transplant, because it has taught me so much about picking up your cross and bearing it, suffering upward, what it means to give of yourself to other people for the cause of life, for the improvement of their greater good, selflessly. I'll never meet my donor. I'll never be able to thank them. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. But they gave me everything. They gave me a heart, and that heart is beating right now. I can feel it beating in my chest, and I would not have it if they had not sacrificed themselves. So I feel honor bound. I feel it is my duty to suffer upward, to not waste this gift, to not waste this opportunity, and to not waste the life that they sacrificed for me. So that's what suffering upward to me is. You'll see that, like I said, in my videos, on my social media. Hell, I have T-shirts, obviously, on that. Or, I mean, I have one on that says "Suffer Upward" right now, but I mean that's where that comes from. That idea that your current circumstances are not your future. So choose to suffer, accept that you will, and move forward and be better. That's the message. That's the message that, I'm trying to build into not only my own life, but the message that I'm trying to spread. So I hope you all have a good day. I hope that explains a little part of what I'm doing. If you're a transplant warrior, if you're a transplant patient, if you're a transplant caregiver, if you're the family member or a loved one or a living donor, thank you. Thank you for listening. Hopefully I can help, and that's what I'm out to do.